Joining us tonight is Jeremy Alters. He's the chief strategist at the Berman Law Group. Hello, Mr. Alters. Many have called this just a distraction, this lawsuit. There is no proof yet to back your claims. What is the legal strategy behind this lawsuit?
Well, I want to be clear that I'm a non-lawyer chief strategist of the law firm, but the legal strategy that the lawyers in the firm are utilizing is a class action basis against a foreign nation, which allows you to sue under certain exceptions for their bad acts that have harmed citizens of the United States here and abroad.
So have such lawsuits been filed before?
Yes, there are many. The government of Sudan was sued, the government of Libya was sued, the government and personnel of Cuba was sued, national corporations of China have been sued, where the Chinese government owns the corporations. I believe Iraq was sued. So this has happened many times in the history of the United States.
But we are still in the midst of the coronavirus crisis. Why file a lawsuit now at this point in time?
We thought it was appropriate to put China on notice of their bad acts. And if we don't put them on notice now, maybe it will continue to be bad acts as it goes forward. So in our country, in the United States, and I don't know how it is in India or other places, but in the United States, we have the right to file the lawsuit to put this country on notice, to let China know that we know what they've done, that we don't appreciate what they've done, and most importantly, that they're going to have to pay for what they've done. And I want to be very specific when I say they. We are not talking about the people of China. We do not hold individuals in China responsible. They are in the same position we are. This information was hidden from them. We're talking about the Chinese government and the people behind all of this.
Now, China enjoys sovereign immunity. How can it be held liable for a pandemic in an American court, Mr. Alters?
So there are exceptions to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act involving commercial activity, involving terrorism, involving other types of activities that have harmed citizens of the United States. So these acts that China has conducted, when I say China, again, I'm speaking of the government, that they've conducted, fall into those exceptions in our opinion, and our lawyers believe that they will be able to pursue it under those exceptions.
And what do you hope to achieve with this lawsuit?
There are trillions of dollars in damages as we sit here today. And I want to point this out and make sure it's very clear. China is a world superpower. They are one of the wealthiest nations in the world. They are one of the more powerful nations in the world. And they use their power here to conceal this disease, this virus, in order to protect their economic interests. And when they did that, they harmed the citizens of our country and the citizens of your country and other countries around the world. By doing that here in the United States, they will be held accountable. And if we prevail, we'll be held to pay for the damages that they've caused, not only to the individuals who have unfortunately been diagnosed with this terrible virus, some of whom have died, some of whom are in ICU, but the businesses, small and large in the United States, the individuals who have been harmed, the people who work in restaurants, who are waiters and waitresses and out of jobs, valet people, people that work maintenance. There are hundreds of millions of people at home in the United States right now, and the economy is taking a huge hit as a result of this, and China will be held accountable if we prevail in this lawsuit to have to pay actual damages to these individuals and these companies.
I agree with you. We've been reporting on this, on how China needs to be held accountable. But how will you make sure that this decision is binding on China, whatever the decision be?
Right. So our lawyers here in our firm and in the United States have the right to serve China through the Hague Convention process, which would allow us to serve China with a complaint and require them to come to court here in the United States. Now, if China refuses to do so, that would say a lot about them avoiding responsibility. We expect that they will respond to this complaint. We expect that they will accept service, and we expect that they will be held accountable. If they refuse to do so, there will be other steps that we ask the court and others to take to put pressure on China to participate in this lawsuit so that they are held accountable. They need to be held accountable for what they've done, both here and abroad. They have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars and control a large part of the world economy. This is not something they should take lightly. This is a very serious situation they've caused for the United States.
Right. You filed a lawsuit in Florida. There's one in Texas. These are pressure-building tactics, as you say. Can there be any legal action against China on a global level?
The mechanism of how that lawsuit would work would be up to the individual countries. It depends on what different countries allow. So, for example, if India permits class action lawsuits, then India could allow a suit to be brought against China. And if they needed to, and let's be very clear, this is a worldwide pandemic that has never happened before and happened, we believe, as a result of China concealing what was going on there. So if that's the case, it may call for the laws, both here and abroad, to be changed to allow for the pursuit of the damages against China. And I would hope that a country like India or the UK or other countries have these laws in place, or will put these laws in place to allow for the recovery for their citizens, because this is devastating to people around the world.
I think finding the laws is the second step. First, you need consensus. Do you see global consensus building around the demand for such legal action against China?
We hear a lot about it. You know, politics are a funny thing. It depends on what side of the aisle you sit on around the world as to your relationship with China. In the United States, China has handled and controlled too much of our economy for too long. It is time for that to change. And around the world, I feel it's somewhat similar. Now, I don't know the specifics of India or Singapore or the UK, but I would imagine it's somewhat the same. And I think it's time for that to change. And we have to tell China, no more. This cannot happen anymore. We cannot be affected by your bad acts because you're worried about your economy. It cannot continue. Not here, not in India, not in Singapore, not across Asia. It has to stop. And that's why we brought this lawsuit, to make it stop, at least here in the United States and hopefully around the world.
Well, more power to you, Jeremy Alters. Thank you very much for joining us. 2 lawsuits against China right now, one in Florida, one in Texas, and counting. Hopefully there will be global consensus to make China pay.